Hello. Today we're going to use OpenText Magellan to explore some interesting data on loneliness used for the annual bake-off at the Gartner BI and Analytics Summit in Orlando. The data for the BI bake-off came from two sources. One was from a loneliness survey conducted jointly by the Kaiser Family Foundation and the Economist, and the other data source came from Gartner and is the Iconoculture Consumer Insights, which includes data on consumer values and consumer behaviors. So, the questions we needed to answer for this bake-off were: is loneliness a major problem? Does technology help the situation or make it worse? And what are the different factors that most influence loneliness and or happiness? So we'll start here in our loneliness dashboard, which displays just a bit of demographic information on the people filling out the loneliness survey. Taking a quick glance, we have loneliness by country. Only those who reported often and always lonely is represented here. And you can see that they are compared by country in the chart on the left. Off to the right here you see gender, where in general loneliness seems to be split almost evenly by gender, leaning slightly more towards male with 51% compared to female with 49% when you look at the countries grouped together. So on the bottom here, we've got loneliness by age range tree map. So this map shows us from larger to smaller which age groups has most reported problem loneliness. So in this case, the 25 to 34-year-olds report the most loneliness, followed up by the 35 to 44-year-olds. 18 to 24-year-olds are next, 45 to 54, um, and so on. So it's easier to compare age groups in the next chart in the middle here. We can see again the 25 to 34-year-olds reported the most loneliness. So if we combine a little information on religion, we can see those who participated in religion at least once a month seem to also report less loneliness compared to those who participate in religion just a few times a year, seldom, or never, who seem to report more loneliness. So currently this dashboard is set up for all three countries. We can also look at this information one country at a time. So this top chart is set up as a parameter. So I can click a country, click apply, which will create a global dashboard variable that applies to any other component that uses the same data. So up top here, I get a new global variable for country, and each of these charts below are checking to see if they need to change, and then of course change accordingly. So for the US, I get a slightly different demographic mix where male in this case was 51% and now it's 48%, leaning with females become the majority now at 52. So the largest age group is still the same at the 25 to 34-year-olds. I see a little different distribution of age here in the center where we have a spike here and then straight down as you get older. I also have another chart we'll see later which compares one country at a time. So if I pick a different country like the UK instead, I can see I can switch nicely to show the data for the UK survey respondents. Again, looking at one country gives me a slightly different distribution of age than the whole. And also the UK, more females here reporting loneliness than males at 53%. So one last time, I can change the global variable parameter here to say just be Japan. And when that changes, we'll see we get a predominant male reporting loneliness at 58%. All right, this country filter is a global filter, so let's add all the countries back so we can work with the most data. And then we want to go look at the same data as a crosstab. So in this crosstab, I've got the data on the left organized by country. Then on the top, I've got my different age groups and the regularity of loneliness. That is always, never, often, rarely, and sometimes. So there's a lot of numbers which are hard to compare visually at a glance around the crosstab unless you're looking for a specific number. So we can add some highlighting to make our important numbers stand out. So I can right click here and go to Analyze. And I get to the interactive crosstab editor. So here I can manipulate how the data is organized and displayed. Currently showing me the levels of reported loneliness by country, but I can't really compare loneliness by age group because they're on the same side of the crosstab. So if I want to compare loneliness, I can simply drag it from the columns over to the rows here. And now my data is immediately switched for that comparison. So I can make it even easier to understand by adding some highlighting using conditional formatting. So format, conditional formatting. And here I can create a condition that says when my selected value is greater than or equal to, we'll say 15%, then we want to change the background color. So we'll choose a background color here, and take this dark yellow. So now I can more easily see which numbers stand out, help me find them. So as I see, I can also got some incomplete data here where not sure has been reported. So I can apply a filter to get rid of that data. I'm already removing decline to answer, so I can just add not sure to that filter. So I can be able to select it as a value and click OK. So now that I see my data in a different way, I can click OK And here, I've actually noticed something. So even though earlier we said the age group with the most reported loneliness was the 25 to 34-year-olds, I can clearly see that was carried by both the U.S. and the U.K. And that the same data is the least lonely group in Japan here. So that was a look at crosstabs. Um, let's look at another dashboard called Loneliness Features. So my loneliness feature dashboard using all three of our countries from our global filter. And I could add additional filters, and our crosstab will also use the same filter as well. So if I say marital status here, I can click on something in the middle, say married, and if I click on one of those fields and then click apply, then I'll get a new global variable up here at top, and all of our charts and crosstabs start changing to reflect that same filter selection. So here we'll see that our married people are mostly employed. Now if I change it to something else, let's say widowed, then I get a lot less younger people here. And we also see that my employment status has switched to mostly retired as well. Now, so far we've shown how to view and interact with these dashboards. Let's go next to see how easy it is to build one ourselves. So we'll switch over to one of the Magellan BI and reporting interfaces here. So this is where I can store and run on my data sources, reports, dashboards, and other resources. And if you're a developer, you can think of this as your application server to hold your assets and resources and even securely deliver that content. So here we can create something new. We can create new data sources, new reports, or new dashboards. In this particular case, we are going to create a new data source. So data can come from virtually anywhere. We can pull it from databases, flat files, big data sources. I'm going to grab some Excel files I've got from Gartner from my desktop. I can drag them here or simply browse for them. So I'll take these 3 Excel files and upload them. The first one here is my employee lookup table and has a sheet called Sheet 1. I'll select that. The second one, country lookup, also has a sheet called Sheet 1. Again, I'll select that. And the third one here, Gartner Consumer Values, has a sheet called Wave 8 All Countries with Weight. So I'll take all 3 of these and then I'll click Prepare. So our first sheet here has our employment data, so we'll call that employment data instead of Sheet 1, make it easier to use. The second one then, here is our country data. We'll call that country data. And the third one here is our Gartner Consumer Values table. And it has something called Wave 8 All Countries with Weight, and we'll rename that Gartner Consumer Values. All right, so now joining the data is really easy. I can start by dragging the Gartner Consumer Values table where most of the data is located. Then I'll drag in the country lookup table. The tool automatically found a possible join here under condition of field S1, and that's correct where the country code is stored. So we'll click Done here, and the join will get created. So we can do the same thing with our employment data. And again, it automatically found the fields we need to join. So I can click Enter Join, Left Join, Right Join, Outer Join, and then click Done. All right, so now I can preview this data, and I'll slide this data all the way over to the right where my new joined fields are. And here, instead of seeing code 334, I get to see United States here. And instead of seeing employment of 1, I get to see works full-time. So my data's been coded and is returning the proper values. So I can set this to whatever I want or name it. I will call this one Gartner, and then save this data design. All right, now that we've created a new data source, we can use that data source in a new report or dashboard. So here we're going to use it in a new dashboard. And the first thing we want to do here in our dashboard here is rename our tab. We'll call this one Loneliness. And then we'll start looking at some data objects we created. So we've created a couple different objects to look at loneliness in different ways. One of them here is called percent loneliness, and we'll select that. Once our data is selected, I can start inserting visualizations into the dashboard. I can insert various types of charts, including column, line, area stock, insert tables or different selectors for selecting data, as well as whole or parts of a report. So we're going to insert in this one a chart of a column chart. So first of all, we'll call this one male loneliness by age and country. And we'll set the chart type. We'll leave it here as column chart. So for our data, for the category or x-axis, we'll group our data by age range. In our data object, we've created a field called percent, which groups up some data for us. I'll select the average of that. And we'll group each series of data by the country. So for the filter, we want to make sure these people are male for gender. So we'll select that. And we want to make sure that they are indeed lonely. So we'll make sure that is equal to true as well. And then for formatting, we'll change to a different theme of a nice OpenText blue here and turn the legend on, leaving it to the right. All right, so now I've got a nice chart here showing male loneliness by age and country. I can position and size this however I like. But a great feature here is that I can also share this with anything I create with others. So here I can save this as male loneliness by age and country. And I can also pull in existing visualizations created by others. So I'll pull in female loneliness by age and country, again positioning how I want. And I'll pull in another chart here. I'll pull in a percent loneliness by age and country. And then again, I can organize and lay these out however I like. As I look around my line chart here, I can more easily get a comparison of loneliness by age group across the different countries surveyed. Here, as you see. I can also remove countries from the chart to get a cleaner look at just one country. So if I deselect these others, here I can see in the US that loneliness starts off rather high right after leaving high school or college, and you start to enter the workforce and leaving all your friends behind perhaps, and as you start moving away. And then you get used to this over time. You develop your friends, you get used to daily life with them until, say, over time you hit retirement age here when loneliness seems to take a really high spike again. So if I deselect US and just select UK in the chart, I see a similar pattern, but with the loneliness spike happening a bit earlier for later in life. Now I'm clicking in each chart one at a time to filter by country, but I can also create a filter or data selector that goes across all the charts at once. So I'll insert a data selector that is of the type list, and I'll get that data from our country field. And just like that, I've got a filter across all the charts at once. So I can position this where I want, and now I can select just one country. So if I select, say, just the US, or just the UK, or both, I can have each chart reflect my data selector all at once. And so that's how we create a dashboard. Now that I'm finished with the dashboard, I can share it with others. So if I hover over my dashboard here and select share, so dashboards can be shared with various users or user groups, and very granular permissions to view it, to execute it, to read it, to write, even delete or grant permissions for others to do the same. So individual reports or data tasks can also be scheduled to run wherever I need them, and very advanced scheduling as well. All right, let's switch over here to profiles. So we've been comparing and creating charts one at a time to compare values, but if I want to compare relationships easier, I need to use a profiling tool. So in this case, you'll see I've got a z-score here. This was created with OpenText Magellan's data discovery tool, and I can drag fields into the profile that automatically assigns a z-score, visually showing me which of these fields are more statistically important by being near the top, or less statistically important by being near the bottom, and then how important by being as wide as it is there. So now we can see the profile of someone with reporting happiness is rarely or never lonely. They're married. They're in very good or good physical health. They're employed. They have excellent or good mental health and spend less than 2 hours a day on social media. So to contrast that, the loneliness profile, not too happy, not surprising. They have poor mental health, more than 2 hours a day on social media, yet still have 2 or fewer people to talk to for some reason. Poor physical health, also high on the list, unemployed, divorced, separated, single. Just being around less people seems to be making you lonely as well. So the data is also available as a table where I can see the actual z-score values and which features are statistically important to each profile. So I can interact with this data as well. And so I can select this and select Analyze on the drop-down. And here I can group columns and filters. We're just going to sort this column here, make it easier for each particular feature to stand out. And in this case, we can see the number of people to talk to, which values are the most and least statistically important as you go up and down. And I can see this for each feature as I go down the report as well. So I can save my own copy of this report with the changes I've made as well. But all right, so this has been a look at OpenText Magellan with the loneliness data from the Gartner BI and Analytics Summit. If you want more information, you can visit www.opentext.com/Magellan. We'll get you directly to the Magellan information, and you can watch more demos out there or find more info. Thanks.